Now attention now to the United States. Host of the US report, my Sky News colleague James Morrow joins me. We've got these live pictures from California. This is from the University of California, Irvine. James, police converging on that campus as the pro-Palestinian demonstrations have continued, and not just in California, but right around the United States. We've seen scenes where they've escalated. Some of them have got violent at times as well. What's your read on where this stands right now in the United States in terms of the protest movement and in terms of the political debate?
Well, look, I'm surprised that the thing is still going on, that it hasn't fizzled out yet. A couple of things, though, I'd say about this, Kieran, is that we're seeing the police and the administrations crack down on these demonstrations far more than we did during the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020, because, you know, these riots or these encampments, whatever you want to call them, they're causing a great deal of trouble politically for Joe Biden at the moment. And interestingly, they're being pushed by the very hard left, the very hard progressive left in the United States, which indicates, you know, a split in the Democrat Party that's generational and political, much the same way we have with the Labour Party here in Australia, but of course always in America to a much more extreme kind of extent here. The longer these things go on, I think the worse it is for Joe Biden, who doesn't do well at all off of the fact that this makes it look like, you know, it highlights the fact that their own policy on Israel and Iran and the Middle East is completely muddled as well.
Yeah, those images quite something, though, as the police are actually ripping apart the barricades and the tents as we go to air right now, and those students have been participating. You can see the images of the police going in. Let's hope that it all stays calm, because the last thing you want is any of those people there, the law enforcement officers who are going there onto the front line, to be injured in any way with projectiles or whatever else.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, I think the average American watching this, and especially the average American who's also been told that, you know, the government's going to forgive the student loans of an awful lot of people who've been recently on campuses like this, you know, they're going to back the police in on this, and they're going to back anybody who puts an end to these sorts of encampments, shutting down of campuses, blockades, and so on. You know, this goes well beyond free speech and First Amendment stuff. They're literally setting up autonomous zones on campus where they are taking possession of them, which goes far beyond, you know, any sort of right to free speech, which, you know, Americans support wholeheartedly, being a country of the First Amendment. So, you know, again, we're going to see more and more of these sorts of things. It's interesting, though, you saw Harvard ended theirs this week by quite simply stating, if you keep this up, you will be suspended. That's it. And there's consequences. And that's what we're seeing here, consequences.
Yeah, indeed. There certainly are consequences, and they're going in right now. You can see them throwing some of those tents and other material into the back of a truck to get rid of the encampment. And maybe we see more scenes like we saw in Harvard, where when it becomes an issue of impacting the individual's education or career or prospects, then maybe they start to think twice.
Well, I mean, look, this is a huge thing here, too, Kieran. You know, an awful lot of law firms, some venture capital funds, big money employers that go after top elite graduates from schools like Columbia, Harvard, all of these Ivy League schools have said, hey, you know, if you're from one of these schools, we don't want to hear from you because, you know, we don't want anybody who participated in this nonsense coming into our companies, our law firms, our hedge funds, our businesses, and stirring up political trouble. And we don't approve of the really anti-Semitic, frankly, nature of so many of these protests, which are not just about, you know, justice for Palestine and so on, but about a much more sort of sinister river to the sea ethnic cleansing program that Hamas wants.
Yeah, we'll stay across that story as it develops, and you can see it is very much developing right now there in California. The former Prime Minister has met with Donald Trump. Scott Morrison held a discussion with Donald Trump as he has been caught up in the hush money case. He made some time for Scott Morrison at Trump Tower. There's the image there of after their meeting. And Scott Morrison quite positive about what Donald Trump told him about the AUKUS deal, with an expectation by many that Donald Trump will win in November, James.
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting, too. You know, I mean, obviously, Scott Morrison goes and meets with Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows his name, unlike Joe Biden, the current president, who you'll remember in that famous press conference called him, you know, the guy down under, or whatever it was he said during that famous August press conference. But what's interesting here is a couple of things, not the least of which is that this is a funny sort of way to build rapprochement between Australia, whose current prime minister is, of course, you know, not a huge Trump fan, and our current ambassador, Kevin Rudd, who is really not a fan of Donald Trump. So this is a new channel of relations being, I guess, reopened here between Australia and the United States. I mean, the general word that I've had out of Washington is that Washington is very positive no matter what side of politics they are on AUKUS, that there's a lot of staffing up and gearing up around that. And I think Donald Trump generally is pretty supportive of that idea.
James Morrow, great to chat. Talk to you next week. Thanks. And the US report tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Don't miss it.